trend would remain in place until a peace deal with Iran is agreed upon. U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth denies food shortages and poor quality claims on American warships. Reports have emerged of food shortages aboard warships deployed in West Asia, including USS Abraham Lincoln and USS Tripoli. Thousands of supporters of Yemen's Houthi rebels rallied in the capital Sana'a to express solidarity with Lebanon following a ceasefire that ended weeks of cross-border hostilities. Satellite images shows damage done by Super Typhoon Sinlaku in northern Mariana Islands. The U.S. territory in the Western Pacific was hit by the storm earlier this week. Oil prices plunged nearly 10% Friday after Iran reopened the Strait of Hormuz, easing supply fears. Brent settled near $90 and U.S. crude below $84 as markets unwound risk premiums on ceasefire progress and ongoing nuclear talks. Iran has warned that it will close the strategic Strait of Hormuz again if U.S. continues its blockade of Iranian ports. U.S. President Donald Trump has claimed that Iran has agreed to never close a crucial waterway again. But Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, accused Trump of making false claims. Ghalibaf suggested that Trump's claims are part of a media warfare and engineering public opinion, but said that Iran will not be affected by these tricks. On a post on X, Ghalibaf claimed that Trump had made 7 false claims in 1 hour. He added, and I'm quoting, "With the continuation of the blockade, the Strait of Hormuz will not remain open." Ghalibaf said the maritime movement would be subject to Iran's control, with routes determined by field conditions rather than political messaging. Echoing the stance, Iranian lawmaker Ebrahim Azizi said vessels passing through the strait must comply with the new system set by Iran, underscoring Tehran's intent to assert authority over the waterway. Now, reports suggest that vessels may have to pass through a designated route, traveling further north through waters closer to Iran's mainland near Larak Island, a route that some ships were observed taking during the war. And as you can see on the map on the screen. Earlier, Iran's foreign minister has said that the Strait of Hormuz has reopened for commercial vessels, and Trump hailed that decision, but said that the naval blockade of Iranian ports would continue until a peace deal is agreed upon. Iran also rejected the U.S. president's claim that it was ready to surrender its nuclear materials. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghouti has said that transfer of Iran's enriched uranium to the U.S. has never been raised in negotiations.
I will let you know, enriched uranium from Iran is not going to be transferred anywhere. As much as the soil of Iran is important and sacred to us, this issue is important too.
Trump has claimed that the U.S. and Iran would jointly remove uranium from Tehran's nuclear sites with excavators under any peace deal.
And somebody said, how are we going to get the nuclear dust? We're going to get it by going in with Iran, with lots of excavators, because the B-2s, remember when fake news CNN said, well, maybe obliteration is too strong a word, obliteration. That's so deep. We need the biggest excavators you can imagine, but we're going to go in together with Iran, we're going to get it, and we're going to take it back home to the USA. Very simple.
Now, Trump has sounded upbeat about the chances of a peace deal with Iran, saying that there are no sticking points And a deal is very close, but a senior Iranian officials say that significant differences between Iran and the U.S. remain. The official who spoke on condition of anonymity said that no agreement has been reached on the deals of the nuclear issues, and serious negotiations are required to overcome differences. All right, to discuss more upon this, we are now being joined by Dr. Avner Cohen from Ontario, California. He's a professor of non-proliferation and terrorism studies at Middlebury Institute. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast, Dr. Cohen.
My pleasure.
Well, there are many contradicting statements coming from the U.S. and Iran and Israel. I'll begin with the latest on Israel and Lebanon first. Now, there is a very fragile ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, and the attacks do continue in Lebanon. Netanyahu, in his recent statement, said, and I'm just going to quote here, he said, Hezbollah today is a shadow of its former self compared to the twilight days of Nasrallah, but I say honestly, we have not yet finished the job, and there are things we plan to do against the remaining rocket threat and against the drone threat, and I will not go into detail. What do you make of these statements coming at this point?
Well, Netanyahu was told to stop, and he did stop. And it came from Washington, D.C., from President Trump. Obviously, he was criticized by many Israelis, politicians, and people in the north of Israel who suffered those bombing from Hezbollah. So he needs to go with a certain language as if it's not completely over and Israel may have a right to respond or to continue in some indefinite future. The fact is that right now there is a ceasefire. It's fragile indeed. I think that Hezbollah has interest to keep it, and I don't think that Israel will break it. So that's where we are right now, I think.
Now, Hezbollah does seem at odds with the Lebanese state. Do you think Israel-Lebanon talks will help resolve things with Hezbollah in any way, as Trump has announced historic move by getting Israeli and Lebanese leader on the table?
That's a very, very tough issue, and I think the movement is going to be slow. It's not as simple for any president, especially this president of Lebanon, to move into direct conversation with Israel. His life is at stake. There are threats against his life. So I think they're going to measure very cautiously the temperature within Lebanon itself. It's possible that will be some kind of meeting in Washington, D.C. in the coming weeks, but I think it will be a slow approach from both sides, in particular the Lebanese, who needs to see that they have enough legitimacy from inside, not just from the Shiite minority, and the Shiite in Lebanon are about 30%, Hezbollah and the non-Hezbollah factions of the Shiite, but also from other Muslims, Sunni, and also from the other parts of Lebanon. So it's a very, very tricky issue, and I see the movement is going to be slow and cautious.
And now, of course, we'll come to, Iran and U.S. President Trump has said there are no sticking points left for a peace deal with Iran. And talking about the Strait of Hormuz, Iran said it opened it for the rest of the ceasefire between U.S. and Iran. And they did so after a ceasefire took place between Israel and Lebanon. And they had said this is a point of contention, the ceasefire in Lebanon, as a point so that we go ahead with the talks with U.S. First of all, how do you see these differences coming from U.S. Trump statements saying that we are near a peace deal, while Iran is like there are still differences?
I think there are differences. I think it's if I have to tell you to whom I believe, whether it's Khalidaf from Iran or President Trump, I believe more to Khalidaf in the sense that there are a number of issues which have not been decided. There is agreement or there is approachment towards agreement, but it's far from a real agreement, from a decisive agreement. And the president has a loose language, and he, for domestic needs, he would like to present the war is over, and we're about to have lower prices of gas and the like, and the stock market, today had a great day. So the president has interest to say that the war essentially is over, and there is agreement about everything. This is not the case yet. They're going to meet on Monday in Islamabad. And we'll see how it will go. But I think there are still open issues.
And of course, one of the open issues are the nuclear enrichment, which of course would be
Indeed.
a topic on Monday. Now, President Trump
Indeed.
has said that U.S. and Iran would jointly remove Iran's enriched uranium. And as you did say, of course, he has to talk to the home crowd to convince them that we're near a deal for political reasons. But now Iran has said that its stockpile would not be transferred anywhere. And the nuclear issue was a point of contention even before the 12-day war in June last year, which is why United States and Israel started this whole war in Iran. Do you think there is any possibility of this issue being resolved, as Trump claims, in the talks to come?
I think that will be the most sticking and difficult issue to resolve, even to make a workable compromise that looks somewhat nice for both sides. I think it's a very big principle for Iran not to transfer the uranium from Iranian soil. Whether you can have some kind of exterritorial facility, which the uranium will be there and it will be diluted, whether that will be satisfied, it's not obvious. I think the recovery of that uranium is not going to be straightforward. It's not that simple. I don't think that there is a clarity where all the uraniums is being located. There is now talk about another secret facility that maybe some of the uranium is there. So there are a lot of issues, and that's going to be discussed on Monday in Pakistan.
Talking of this transfer of uranium, it does remind of Iraq, where U.S. took its enrichment from in 2007. But Russia is one of the parts who said that we can also take the uranium enrichment, and there's U.S. who's saying that we're going to transfer it to our territory. At this point in time, what looks viable for Iran to go with? Keep it or give it to Russia or U.S.? What do you think would be the likely solution for it?
Very, very difficult to say. I think it very much depends on the other elements. In particular, the Iranian economy needs the money. They need to freeze a lot of money. And I understand that the U.S. is talking almost immediately to freeze some $27 billion. That's huge, but it's still, Iran needs much more than that. I think Iran is going to be in very much an effort to restore and to rebuild. And they may make some kind of compromise on the uranium in that context. So maybe some elements of that will be removed from Iran temporarily, or maybe it will be some kind of, as I mentioned, exterritorial legal arrangement that it would be Iranian territory, but elsewhere. I don't know. Lawyers can work on that. But it's a very important principle for Iran, and I don't see them easily giving up on this one.
All right, coming back to the Strait of Hormuz, Germany is prepared to send minesweepers to the Strait of Hormuz, which they had promised even earlier back in March that they will be sending it once their parliament clears it. Meloni has said that Italy is ready to deploy naval units to the Gulf region. Now, Germany also wants U.S. involvement, while France has argued for an operation that does not involve the warring parties. Now, Trump has snubbed NATO over help. Do you think a NATO operation is possible without the United States with its naval blockade still in place?
Well, the Iranian statement about opening the straits is essentially only for the time of the ceasefire, and it depends if it's going to be an agreement or not. If there is no going to be agreement, they can close it again. It's a lot of posturing. For European naval ships to be there, it will take at least 2 weeks. I think, and apparently the U.S. Blockade is not fully hermetic. There are some ships that can move and small numbers back and forth. So yes, it's going to be open, but the Iranians insist on their sovereignty on the straits. They remove right now, as I understand it, they're not asking for the fee for the time being, but they make it very much clear this is their straits. And we'll see what's going to be. That's going to be also discussed in Pakistan, we'll see. But I think for now, and this was helpful for the response in the market, and that's the reason why the barrel of oil, the price went significantly down, was that there is traffic, there is a movement, and for now the straits are open.
Also, the timing of these talks, if they do happen on Monday, it happens at a very interesting time, is right the day before the ceasefire comes to an end. Now, last time the talks took place, there was people were expecting the ceasefire to extend. Do you think that is a possibility in these Monday's talks? Because this seems like a talk between U.S. and Iran that cannot be solved even in 21 hours, I would say.
I fully agree with you. I expect it to be extended, possibly even longer than 2 weeks. I think the president needs to give the market and the domestic constituency in the U.S. a sense that this war is over. He was saying it. I don't think he has any appetite to go back to bombing. So I think that he's from a position that essentially the war is over, and I believe extension will be given.
Also, India's Ministry of External Affairs has confirmed that New Delhi has been invited to join these discussions led by France and the UK on securing the Strait of Hormuz. According to you, what role do you think India can play if NATO does invite India in their mission to secure the strait?
It's interesting. Obviously, it elevate India's status in this conversation into one of those powers who are involved in this kind of arrangement, give it status of kind of another broker in these discussions. India gets some of its oil through the straits, not all of it, of course, but some of it. As you know, the United States also continue to remove the sanctions over ships that takes the Russian oil. So that's another element in that. I think it's an effort to give this arrangement some kind of international legitimacy, and India is very much a big player, and India is going to be part of that sense of legitimacy, international legitimacy.
Also, just because you mentioned Russia, U.S. administration has now extended this waiver allowing sale of Russian oil that are already at sea by 1 more month. What do you make of this timeline? Because, of course, the talks are happening on Monday. The ceasefire is till Tuesday. And this waiver has been extended 1 more month. Now, of course, Scott Bessent had said that there would be no renew of this waiver, but it has indeed happened. This 1 month of period, do you think that is indeed happening? Because, of course, the ceasefire is to end and the Monday talks will happen. And so even the U.S. is unclear how long would this conflict go on for.
I think it's very much the spirit of de-escalation. It's a message of de-escalations, and essentially the war is over and we're looking for a reasonable arrangement to go back to normal. And I think that being conciliatory for Russia on this, maybe it could be helpful in the effort to resume conversation about Ukraine. That's the way I read it.
All right, well, of course, we'll have to wait and see all the developments. It keeps happening every moment. Thank you so much, Dr. Cohen, for joining us on broadcast and giving your perspective.
Bye.
And the cost of the West Asia conflict on heavily sanctioned Iran's already faltering economy is estimated to be much more than the U.S. and Israel put together. Hopes of an extension to the ceasefire and a second round of talks between the U.S. and Iran have markets recoup the severe losses from the war month. But for the Islamic Republic, the recovery requires heavy rebuilding efforts and money. We decode that and more in our next report. Take a look. Iran's economy, which was already struggling because of sanctions, has been severely hit by the latest war. However, at the moment, with the internet outage, analysts say it is extremely difficult to get an accurate picture of what is taking place inside Iran. Still, a conservative view shows severe revenue losses and substantial infrastructural destruction. Bombing strikes targeted important industrial sites, including the enrichment facilities at Natanz and well-known steel factories in Isfahan and Khuzestan. The conflict has resulted in widespread public discontent and internet blackouts, exacerbating economic instability. Many small businesses have already disappeared, and the others are likely to fade away too if the conflict worsens. A conservative estimate puts the first month of the war imposed a damage of around $100 billion. That would mean more than 1 to 2 years' worth of oil exports. Major economic sites have targeted and damaged. The war has disrupted oil and gas production and exports, destroying key revenue stream for Iran. Widespread discontent is rising, with the economy suffering from high inflation, banking crisis, and the aftermath of a prolonged internet blackout affecting businesses. The crisis has created widespread instability and increasing potential for labor shortages. At the same time, there is widespread unemployment. The war has led to major shutdown of oil facilities and shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, forcing regional neighbors into economic distress. The conflict has raised global oil prices significantly, with potential for long-term global economic slowdown. The cost of this war is ongoing, with significant long-term repercussions for Iran's rebuilding capabilities. Another important question is, where will Iran get the money from to rebuild? Analysts say the sanctions relief is far more valuable for Iran economically than any revenues they might get from the Hormuz toll. Sanctions have severely crippled Iran's $483 billion oil-dominated economy, causing a sharp devaluation of the rial, widespread inflation, and a drop in oil exports by 60 to 80% post-2018. Western sanctions have constrained GDP per capita. That measure has fallen from over $8,000 in 2012 to roughly $5,000 in 2024, starving the economy of capital and forcing many into or deeper into poverty. Sanctions targeted key industries like automotive and energy, causing manufacturing to stutter. That prompted a shift towards domestic production and trade with partners like China. But estimates suggest Iran has suffered between $500 billion to $1 trillion in lost trade and investment opportunities since 1979. The economic pressure has caused a significant decline in living standards and has pushed many middle-class workers into the informal economy. The attacks on some energy infrastructure and steel companies are also directly affecting people. And the rebuilding costs and time expected to be the bigger concern, even if the war stops right away. Since the start of the war, the Iranian economy has moved into an economy of survival. Reports show if people have money, they are only spending on essentials. And that suggests its large part of the economy have gone into a full state of freeze. This is Bureau Report. WION World is One. All right, we'll call a wrap to World DNA for today. News and updates will follow on the other side. You're watching WION World is One. Do stay tuned.
On Inside South Asia, a joyous picnic spot in western Afghanistan descended into chaos as gunmen opened fire on civilians. How fuel crisis triggered by the Iran war is impacting Bangladeshi farmers. And Saudi Arabia pledges additional $3 billion support to Pakistan. All this and much more with me, Kripa, on Inside South Asia.
Mind your P's and Q's. Chatbots aren't human, so what? Be polite to Claude. Kind to Gemini. Don't trust AI summaries, face down a T-Rex in virtual reality. If life is a marathon, then robots are making a run for it. Catch all of these stories and more on this episode of Tech It Out at these times.
This week on Wings, we get you all the action from Thailand as the country celebrates its new year with the biggest and most vibrant festival, Songkran.
It is packed. You can't walk a meter without getting sprayed all the sun.
Also on the show, we showcase how communities come together in India to celebrate the harvest season. This and more, only on WION World is One.
जिंदगी के सफर में गुजर जाते हैं जो मकाम.
The voice of versatility and the queen of playback. As India mourns the loss of Asha Bhosle, we celebrate her musical legacy that lives on. A melody of a lifetime. On WION at these times.
What is a classic? A motorcycle you've ridden all your life? Or its modern cousin with a retro vibe? Why are women on bikes so stereotyped? A girl can love her art, like to dance, and take her bike out for a ride. Now EVs are taking the world by storm. But hybrids still tread the middle path. It's all about following your bliss on this episode of WION Drive, coming up at these times.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
Get the latest updates.
Destroy their
Breaking
missiles
news.
and raise their...
Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is one.
In West Asia, every move shifts the world's balance. Wars, ceasefires, alliances, power never stands still. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Damascus to Doha, the West Asia Post cuts through the chaos to reveal the region that shapes the world. Because what happens in West Asia never stays in West Asia. This is the West Asia Post, the region's story, the world's impact.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching WION World is One with me, Diksha Bisla. Let's start with the headlines. Trump administration extends waiver on allowing the sale of Russian oil that are already at sea by one more month. The extension comes 2 days after Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that US would not renew the waiver. A US media report says American and Iranian delegations are expected to arrive in Pakistan this weekend and hold negotiations on Monday to end the war. Both sides are yet to confirm any scheduled talks. President Donald Trump says US and Iran would jointly remove Iran's enriched uranium before the material is transferred to American territory. Trump's comment comes even after Iran said that its stockpile would not be transferred anywhere.
Iran Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf says that US President Donald Trump is making false claims on Iran. Warns that Iran will close the strategic Strait of Hormuz again if the US continues its blockade of Iranian ports. US military shares video of enforcing a blockade of Iranian port as President Trump says the naval deterrent would remain in place until a peace deal with Tehran is agreed. US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth denies food shortages and poor quality claims on American warships. Reports have emerged of food shortages aboard warships which are deployed in West Asia, including USS Abraham Lincoln and USS Tripoli. Thousands of supporters of Yemen's Houthi rebels rallied at the capital Sana'a to express solidarity with Lebanon following a ceasefire that ended weeks of cross-border hostilities. Satellite images show damage done by super typhoon Sinlaku in northern Mariana Islands. The US territory in the Western Pacific was hit by the storm earlier this week. Wall Street rallied to record highs on Friday with S&P 500, Nasdaq and Dow all surging on easing West Asia tensions. Nasdaq jumped over 1.5% for its longest winning streak in decades as falling oil prices boosted investor sentiment and lifted global equities. Our top focus on WION at this hour, the Trump administration has renewed a waiver allowing countries to buy sanctioned Russian oil and petroleum products which are already at sea. Just 2 days ago, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said